Brandon Benefield, Gerard Bonner, and Diana Michelle.
What's going on, everybody? It's that time of the week. It's Friday. You know what that means. It's time for your favorite podcast, SHW. This is our wrestling, the official podcast of Southern Honor Wrestling. I'm B-Double Brandon Benefield alongside the great Gerard Bonner. And as you can see, missing in action temporarily is the beautiful Diana Michelle, but I believe she will be joining us here in just a little bit. But before we get going, GB, I know we were just talking off air a little bit about our weeks, but tell the people how you been doing. How's your week going?
It's been a good week. There's always all kinds of things going on. We're nearing literally my favorite time of the year, not just because of Christmas, but it's end of the year in review, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm starting to get some of that stuff together in some other spaces. And so it's a fun time. It's a really, really fun time. So much has happened this year. And as we noted, last week, of course, and we'll get into that. So yeah, that's been kind of consuming the brain and getting ready for all kinds of things. So yeah, fun stuff. How about you?
Absolutely, man. I'm like you, man. I'm excited for the end of the year. Of course, you know, hanging out with the family for Christmas and New Year's, all that big stuff coming up here in the next couple of weeks. We just came off of a huge show, SHW57, our final show of the year. And of course, we do it big. You know, we kind of say it every month, like it's going to be a huge show. We really do have like kind of some key big shows, our anniversary, Rumble Jack. And I always feel like though December kind of fits in there. It's our last show of the year every year. And so we go big, and this one was no different. Some big moments, some big surprises, some big shocks. And so we're going to review that here, give you a rundown of what went down, and prepare you to definitely watch it on IWTV, because you're going to want to go back and see this. It was pretty special.
Yeah, it was extremely special. We say it all the time, but every show is a can't miss show. It's a must see show. It's a gotta be in the building kind of show, because let me just tell you, last month when I was on assignment, one of the wildest feelings in the world was, oh my God, what is happening right now at SHW? And having to hear about it on the socials or from our reports and all those kinds of things, and having to just wait for IWTV felt like an eternity. So yeah, by all means, if you can make it in the building. In fact, I've got a little life hack for you. Are you ready?
Oh,
the New Year's coming. We'll talk about SHW58, I'm sure, at some point, but a great Christmas gift would be tickets to Southern Honor Wrestling. So I know you can't necessarily order them and put them in the stocking, but you can plan for it. And I'll make sure that you meet us at the Action Building. I believe January 5th is the date.
Yep.
And make that part of your Christmas and New Year's celebration. So put that on the calendar now, because we're almost there, believe it or not. We're what, 3 weeks away?
Oh,
it's actually kind of crazy how fast that's showing up.
It'll be here before you know it. And I don't know if you did this when you were a kid, GB, but like when we were little, like we'd make these little coupons for a mom for like Mother's Day or something.
Yes.
Where it's like, here's a coupon for me to do the dishes, or here's a coupon for an extra hug, or, you know, just these little cute little things that you give your mom. That's what you can make for somebody. Give them a coupon, a little kind of IOU situation for here's the tickets, and then we'll get them on show day, because as you know, tickets on sale at the door the night of the show. And starting at $15, kids 10 and under are free as always. And you're not going to want to miss it. As GB mentioned, there's nothing like being there in person. Yes, please go back and watch it on IWTV so you can hear us. But you definitely want to be there in person as well, because it's just can't miss every month, man. So
it is.
Let's get into it though. SHW57, it went down last Friday, and man, oh man, we knew a few matches coming into it ahead of time, and then of course as the weeks led up, we got the whole card announced. So we had a couple of matches to really kind of get pumped for. One of them being the Infantry. We knew they were going to arrive because the announcement was made at SHW56. Of course, we'll get to that match. But before we do that, let's kind of start out with the top of the card here. At the beginning of the show, we found out our matchmaker, Jake the Snake. Speaking of the Infantry and Exotic Youth, Jake had the forethought to say, you know what? There's 3 Exotic Youth, there's 2 Infantry. let me kind of take care of one of the guys. I'm going to put Pepper Bottom in a match, a surprise
Mhm.
match, an impromptu match. And boy, oh boy, what a match it was. This was just one of the many surprises throughout the night. The
Yeah.
arrival of the governor, Anthony
Mhm.
Ogogo, showing up in Southern Honor Wrestling. Now, GB, here is a guy that many folks are familiar with in AEW. He had a
Mhm.
big match with Cody Rhodes a couple of years ago in
Sure did.
AEW at one of the pay-per-views, which you and I happened to be there for down in
Yeah.
Jacksonville. And of
Yeah.
course, prior to that, you and I have called stuff for him at the Nightmare Factory,
Yes.
a couple other promotions around town. And how exciting was it that he showed up unexpectedly? We didn't know. The crowd
Yeah.
certainly didn't know. And Pepper
Yeah.
Bottom most definitely did not know. You saw the look on his face.
Yeah.
But how cool was it that the governor showed up at Southern Honor Wrestling?
You know, it's funny. We've had the privilege, as you mentioned, of working with the Nightmare Factory, and we've seen a lot of talents come through there. Some people would probably be surprised if we started rattling off some of the names of people who we've called matches for at the Nightmare Factory. You'd be like, you did what?
Yeah.
Anthony Ogogo was one of those guys. And I think, you know, when we start thinking about people we would love to see in SHW, he was certainly on the list, but I don't think we ever thought that it would happen. It's
Yeah.
just, you know, he's locked in, he's got all these things going on. Then we didn't see him for a while. And then boom, here he shows up. What a way to end 2023 with the debut of Anthony Ogogo, who seemingly has turned over a new leaf. You know, usually when we've seen him before, he's had a, you know, kind of a chip on his shoulder. He was angry. He was upset. This time he kind of bared his soul to the Canton audience and told the SHW faithful his story in his own words and said, hey, listen, I'm going to try and do things the right way. And it turned into quite a moment. I mean, and we've said this before. One of the hardest things to do in independent wrestling is to debut at SHW.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard because the crowd, they are locked into who they like. It's hard to really kind of impress them if you are brand new. And we had a few, you know, newcomers show up to SHW on this show. Ogogo being unannounced, people were still familiar with him. They connected with his story. And I guess it didn't hurt that they hate Cornelius Pepperbottom. So that combination proved to be very, very fruitful for Anthony Ogogo.
You know, and I think I even mentioned on commentary, you know, because you're right. He kind of surprised us. Not only were we shocked to see him in the first place, but then to grab the mic and kind of, like you say, just kind of bare his soul to the audience. And I wasn't expecting to hear from him, certainly.
Right.
But you're right, turning that new leaf and just kind of like trying to win over the crowd almost.
Right.
And I think I even mentioned on commentary, one way to certainly win over the crowd is to oppose Exotic Youth. And so
Absolutely.
if you're in there against somebody like Pepper Bottom, who the crowd just despises,
right.
I mean, that's a win right there already. And so the fact that he got in there and then not only battled Cornelius Pepper Bottom, but then laid in the governor's hammer and just knocked him out. I mean, out cold. Woo, man, what a way to start the show. I mean,
you know, it kind of feels like, you know, last year at the December show, we had a visit from Santa Sells. And this time around, it certainly feels like Santa showed up and had gifts for everyone. And it felt like this was gift number one for you and for Diana to see Pepper Bottom get knocked out. And it was a brilliant way by Jake the Snake to ensure that we'd actually have a fair match later on in the show between the infantry and Exotic Youth. What a showing for Anthony Ogogo. My hope is that this wasn't kind of a one-time favor from our matchmaker, Jake the Snake.
Yeah.
I hope that this is something where we will see him more regularly on our roster, because if you have Anthony Ogogo on the roster at SHW, champions, look out, because things could be problematic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about a former Olympian, an Olympic gold winner, or not gold medal winner, but a bronze medal winner, but still got a medal in the Olympics in the 22 or 2012. As a, you know, boxing in the Olympics. I mean, just an incredible athlete. You know, one of the things I thought was interesting that he mentioned when he was talking to the crowd was how hard professional wrestling is. You know, you go from being a professional athlete in the boxing world And,
Yeah.
you know, you get injured. He has the eye injury that takes him out of that sport. And that's
Right.
that was his passion growing up and, you know, becoming a professional there.
Yeah.
But then to hear, you know, it just kind of makes you realize the respect that he showed coming into professional wrestling and just how hard it is, you know, any
Yeah.
athlete thinking, oh, I could do professional wrestling. It's not that easy, folks. I'm
It's
telling
not,
you.
especially in a sport like boxing where you
Yeah.
train, you know, 5, 6, 7 months for one fight, and you may have 2 or 3 fights a year, as opposed to maybe 2 or 3 matches a week
Yeah.
in the sport of pro wrestling. It's a much different ball game. In boxing, you can go to your corner, you have breaks every 3 minutes. Not the case in pro wrestling. You
And
have to
think about
keep
this.
going.
You're hoping you don't ever have to hit the canvas. That's if you get knocked
Right.
out, and you're hoping that never
Right.
happens. In
Right.
wrestling, you're constantly hitting the canvas. So, I mean,
Constantly.
think about how much your body has to get used to that and build up to that before
Yeah.
you can do it on a regular basis. So, I mean, I'm sure it's a whole different animal. And the respect that he's shown, and like we talked about, we've seen him in the Nightmare Factory. We've gotten to see him in his early days of training to become a professional wrestler. So it's
Yes.
very cool to be able to see, kind of like we talked about with somebody like Carly Bravo, who we'll talk about
Mhm.
here in a little bit, getting to
Yeah.
see him since his very first match and to see
Absolutely.
how far he's come. So coincidentally, those guys behind the scenes, very close, trained together
Mhm.
quite a bit in the early days and
Yeah.
very close together. And so, anyways, very excited that he showed up. And like you said, I hope that's not the only time. I hope it wasn't just a one-off
Right.
surprise because I would love to
Right.
see him. We even said in our commentary, maybe he'll become the governor of
Mhm.
SHW. And
Yeah.
hopefully we'll see some more of him coming forward. But you're right, man. If that is the case, whoever's holding a title belt in the company,
Look out.
beware. I mean,
Absolutely.
you just never know.
Absolutely.
Another big matchup. Well, actually, we assumed it would be a big matchup, but we weren't quite sure what the matchup would be yet because it was Najicism with an open challenge, and we had no idea who was going to take him up on the open challenge. All
Mhm.
we knew was that Naja was coming off of a huge victory at the last show, the 3 Stages of Hell, where
Mhm.
he defeated Owen Knight, laid out this open challenge. We wondered what was next, who would be next. And here comes Kenway. Kenway
Mhm.
accepting the open challenge, or so we thought,
Right.
until the music of the end game hit, and out came Nick Halen being flanked by Todd Sexton and CT Keys.
Mhm.
And I'll let you talk on this a little bit, GB. You went back and you watched SHW56. So you
Yes.
saw kind of the situation between Murder One and Todd Sexton, with
Mhm.
Kenway kind of in the middle, not really sure who to listen to. Well,
Yeah.
that kind of bled over into this show as well, where they kind of came out and I basically stole Kenway's opportunity at this open challenge, I felt like.
Yeah, they stole it seemingly in an attempt to engraft him into the end game.
Yeah.
And kind of the body language from Kenway to the end game was hard to discern. Like on one hand, you were thinking, well, maybe he didn't want to be associated with them, yet he followed everything they said from start to finish. You know, they had him stay out there, and he could have at any point walked back to the dressing room. Like, he did not have handcuffs on. Nobody tied him to the ring. You know, he stayed out there of his own volition, which made things very interesting. You know, we talked about this open challenge concept and how clearly Naja felt like he was on top of the world, being
Yeah.
able to get that win over Owen Knight, pretty much put Owen Knight in his rear view mirror. And he felt like it didn't matter who came through the curtain, he could take them. But when you're talking about Nick Halen, you know, technical wrestler of the year, co-wrestler of the year, you know, part of the end game, he doesn't travel alone. I think immediately you could tell Najicism was in more trouble than he planned to be, because one-on-one, yeah, I think he could take on anybody. But 1-on-3 or 4
Yeah.
with Kenway out there could prove to be too much. And I think that's what we ultimately saw.
What was interesting is the whole time Kenway was out there, I'm kind of still wondering, like, okay, is he really taken to these guys, or what's
Mhm.
going on here? Is he just biding his time to do something? And then he ended up listening to Todd Sexton and kind of interfering on behalf of Nick Halen when he was
Yeah.
distracting the referee.
Yeah.
And I was kind of mind blown. I think I even said to you, like, what in the world must Joe Black and Murder One be thinking if they knew this was going on? Meanwhile, I know Joe Black was in a certain headspace backstage
Right.
because he had the big title match coming up with Judas at the end of the show. So he probably wasn't even paying any attention to it.
Right.
But if he had been, and if Murder One was, then I had to, we had to have thought at that point, certainly they're not going to be happy about what's going on right now.
Right. Right. It's crazy. I really felt like the Kenway is wildly impressionable. Like, how in the world could you call yourself the Infinity Stone of the hierarchy and yet be so easily led by the end game? From what we saw at SHW57 to this particular moment, it really was kind of wild. And to think that the Kenway ultimately ended up as the deciding factor in the outcome of this match in favor of the end game is crazy. Yeah. It's just crazy. And so it left us with a lot more questions than answers when it came to the Kenway and his affiliation with the end game.
Yeah, more questions than answers, and a particular answer or answers that we would get to at the end of the show. And of course, we'll get there once we start talking about our main event championship matchup. But great match between Nick Halen and Nagicism. I even said that night that if it could just be a solid one-on-one match of the year potential. I mean, those two guys, top contenders, any promotion you put them in. And I wish we could just see a clean match. I say that with any of the guys in the end game. I wish we could just see. Same about Exotic Youth. I say it all the time. Yeah. Say what you will about those guys. If they would just do it by the books and just rely on their wrestling skill, they're top guys. I mean, there's no need for the shenanigans, but it is what it is. It's whatever. But moving on down the line, we had Alexander Lev and Rob Killjoy. And again, say what you will about Alexander Lev and this new Messiah mentality, being faithful and trying to get the crowd behind him. I will say he has come a long way in 1 year's time.
Oh, yes.
And if there's a Rookie of the Year category in the awards this year, which rumor has it, that may be a new category.
Rumor has it.
Exactly. Then, like Lev or not, I would say he's definitely a top contender for that Rookie of the Year spot, but we shall see. But anyways, this was the first matchup where we knew going into the show that he would be on the card. He's been there in the last several months, always kind of an impromptu. I keep hearing, including our general manager and others, mistakenly, in my opinion, say that he made his way into the Rumblejack. No. He was at the Rumblejack. He was never an official entrant into the Rumblejack. He got his butt whooped by numerous people during the Rumblejack. Never was an official entrant. I just want to make that clear because I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when everybody else is saying that he made it into the Rumblejack. Like, no, he was never officially. Now, he would even tell you that he outlasted David Ali, who ended up winning the Rumblejack. Again, not true. Anyways, that's just been bugging me the last couple of months. I know. Here. I'm like, revisionist history going on. Like, what's going on here? Anyways, but yes, he was there. He's ended up in some impromptu matches where he's been on the short end of the stick, definitely. But again, first time we knew going in that he's officially on the card, and this time taking on one of the Ugly Ducklings, Rob Killjoy.
Yeah, that revisionist history thing is really a thing. I mean, from Lev saying that, he's been part of the Rumblejack to other people saying that commentators are selling their souls. I mean, there's revisionist history all over the place around here. So it is true that this is Lev's first official match. When we say official, I mean, he was actually signed to be there as opposed to him making his way through the back door. And you could tell from the moment that he came out that something was different about him. And that something was all of a sudden he went from just being faithful to being the Messiah. I mean, if one match can do that and make you that confident, wow, And so, I mentioned last time when we were together in this forum that he just manages to find his way into these spaces. It almost seems like luck, but it feels like a weird strategy. And so now here he is on the final SHW show of the year against one of the most respected veterans in the Southeast in Rob Killjoy. And it's like, holy cow. And so we finally get to see, okay, what happens when Lev prepares for a match? You know, all these other opportunities he was involved in, he literally got thrown in last minute, probably wasn't prepared. So what would he do prepared? And I have to say, he gave us a pretty solid showing. I mean, there is something to be said for Alexander Lev. Yes, he's new to the business, but he's clearly a student of the business. And as we have seen, the beauty of SHW is we've had the privilege of seeing people in their formative years, people in their first, second, and third year make incredible strides. And I think Alexander Lev is one of those guys we'll be talking about for quite some time. An impressive showing, but I think this is one of those cases where he talked a great game, but he created so many problems for himself that they came back to bite him, and his problems proved to actually be faithful.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. And you know, we're gonna say this multiple times over. You always hear us say it. We talk about people we've seen at the Nightmare Factory, people we've got to see from their very beginning stages at the Nightmare Factory. Lev was one of those. I don't know a lot of people realize that Lev was a Nightmare Factory product as well.
Yes.
But to your point, yes, last month he was on the mic talking a lot of trash, not only about Killjoy, but about others as well. One of those being Cody Fluffman, who happened to be sitting in the audience last month, and he was trying to get in his face. Well, that would come back to bite him this month, as you hear about people getting pie face where somebody just pushes their face. This was a legitimate pie face where Cody Fluffman, by the way, I did not realize, and I don't know if this is true or not, does our concession stand sell full pies? Because
he
had a full pie. You know, other people are buying hot dogs or slices of pizza or whatever. Dude had a full pie in his hand, and when Lev approached him at the guardrail, bam, took a full cream pie right to the face, and that would cause enough distraction there to where Killjoy would end up getting the victory. Not saying he needed the help, but the pie to the face to Lev definitely helped Killjoy get that victory. And then Cody Fluffman grabbed a mic. Apparently, he got on the horn with the Snake Man and said that he's going to have his official in-ring debut next month at the January show, SHW58, taking on Alexander Lev. So we're going to see Lev Fluffman next month. That's at least one match. Of course, we got plenty more to announce in the coming weeks. But I mean, what a shock that was to see an actual pie. And of course, I will get into more of the outcome of what happened with that pie all over the floor and a certain gear guy that may have caused somebody to slip, but not really. But it was kind of funny because she thought. Anyways, I'll get to that here in a little bit when we get to that matchup. But moving on down the line, Ashton Starr, Movie Mike, a saga we weren't sure if it was still going on. We thought maybe it was over. We were wrong. They had the big match at Still Here where Ashton was victorious. Of course, you saw them in an 8-man match on opposing sides up in North Carolina the week before SHW57. And the match or the feud would continue as Ashton Starr would bring back the Petty Party Rules match, trying to finally put this feud behind him with Movie Mike. And I was shocked that it did not go Ashton's way, but not because of anything Ashton was doing wrong. It was because of a new affiliation that Movie Mike has found himself in. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that, GB?
Yeah, it's so interesting. You know, we talked and alluded to the fact that literally 7 days before this match, Movie Mike and Ashton Starr were on opposing teams in an 8-man tag that saw Team Georgia taking on Team North Carolina. Now, one of the interesting things about that is at the end of that match, you know, everybody kind of came together and shook hands, you know, and said it was all in good fun, except for Movie Mike and Ashton Starr, who refused to shake hands. They were very angry with each other at this match. It was very visible. And so I knew coming into this last week that this was going to be problematic. And it was. I mean, it's so interesting. The last time we saw a Petty Party match, the rules changed all the time.
Yeah.
I think this time Ashton was so mad with Movie Mike that he forgot to hop on the mic and change the rules. He forgot to say he just wanted to finally get his hands on him and put this thing to bed. But like any good director, you always have a plot twist. And Movie Mike had a plot twist that involved a soap opera called The Guiding Light. Guiding Light, Tristan Michaels, who we've been associating with Hollywood Hunter James all this time, shows up, and I guess he's the new guy connected to Movie Mike, promoting and propelling Movie Mike to a massive victory over Ashton Starr. None of us expected it. I'm sure Ashton was the last person to expect it. Movie Mike gets what he wants. Finally, a win over Ashton Starr. Feels like there's some vindication, though I'm not sure if this particular war is over or not. But now we know Movie Mike has some reinforcements with Tristan Michaels.
And you made a good point at the show. Like, it really makes sense if you think about it. Movie Mike, the director, you got Hollywood, Hunter James, and now, you know, Tristan Michaels kind of behind the scenes, help, you know, the guiding light, guiding the way for these guys. And he gifted a new movie slate to Movie Mike. It was all wrapped up in, you know, Christmas wrapping, and it was the last thing we would have expected. And it helped Movie Mike to victory over Ashton, which is something he's been looking to have ever since he started showing up at SHW earlier this year. When was it? Like maybe springtime when he started showing up?
Spring/summer.
And
like
so
he's been playing the long game on this one.
Been a minute. And the other thing to think about too, he's always been saying he wants to make Ashton the star of his movie, or the star of whatever this project is that he's working on. The thing is, Ashton had already become the star of the show, as it were, already, without being the star of Movie Mike's show. But now he's got Hollywood Hunter James, so maybe he'll move on from Ashton. Or will Ashton be so bitter and upset about the loss? Will this not be over? You know, I know Ashton wanted to put Movie Mike in the rear view, but after losing, you know, that way in a Petty Party Rules match, can Ashton really just let it go at this point? Like, I don't know. I think I don't know, but I would think there'd be more to this. Who knows?
And it feels like there could be. It feels like there could be. The question would be, you know, who would serve perhaps as a reinforcement for Ashton Starr? Now, we know Ashton's got friends all over the place. So it might be a question of who would step up and stand up for Ashton Starr. We'll find out. But what we know for sure is Movie Mike is not alone. He's got some reinforcements. He's got some help. And it makes you wonder what his next production would be now that he's associated with Hollywood Hunter James.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I want to touch on, and I don't remember where it fell. I think I passed over it before we got to the Ashton and Movie Mike match. But we saw a video package from the Coven of the Goat. Of course, Nathan Mowry, Tank, the Strong Style Psycho, and with the Reverend, of course. And every time I hear the Reverend cut any sort of promo, I immediately want like a lozenge for my throat, because it makes my throat hurt. He's screaming and just that gravelly voice, and it's kind of terrifying. It gives you chills. I mean,
it does.
Whew. But I mean, they made their intentions known, that they're gunning for the tag team division and gunning for the titles. And of course, we did not have a tag title match, as Joe Black was going to be in the main event, which we'll get to here in a little bit.
Right.
But we heard from them, and we also heard from Happy Madness backstage with a kind of bone-chilling vignette that they put out as well. Just really putting the tag team division on notice, putting the hierarchy on notice as far as those tag titles are concerned. So I think the tag team scene is really going to pick up here in the next coming months.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. You know, there's been a lot of talk of what's next for SHW. And, you know, I think one of the things that happened later on in the development of this promotion were the tag team titles and the tag team division. I believe it was 2020 or so when we actually finally got the tag team championships here. And so the challenge there has been, okay, it ebbed and flowed in terms of, you know, tag teams that were present. And then, you know, there was at one point a commitment made to bringing more tag teams in. And now I think we're kind of sitting in that space where suddenly we've got several tag teams gunning for the titles. Last month, of course, we had that 5-team gauntlet match to determine kind of who would get a title shot. And
Yeah.
so just looking at those 5 teams alone is significant. But now we're hearing 2 of those teams make their intentions known. And quite frankly, they're 2 of the scarier teams all around the Southeast. I mean, Coven of the GOAT, they're almost a perfect team. I mean, you've got the wild veteran-like experience there of Tank. Then you have kind of that rookie, young, hungry, Killbilly, both of whom are willing to do almost anything. That mixture of experience and youth really does serve to be a great, great tandem. Then the former tag team champions, Happy Madness, we know how crazy they are. And actually what's scary about them now is before they kind of had a handler of sorts, being a part of Dishonor.
Yeah.
Now they're on their own and there's nobody steering that ship. That makes them even more dangerous than we've ever seen. So for the hierarchy, it's definitely time for them to, not that they've ever been nervous, but they certainly have to pay attention to the idea that there are lots of teams coming for the tag team titles.
Absolutely. Keep that head on a swivel. And, we say that about anytime anybody's holding a championship. Now you got that big target painted on your back. And that is definitely the case with Joe Black and Murder One holding on to those tag team titles. One set of numerous tag team titles that they're holding currently in the state of Georgia. So, I mean, these guys, they've been crushing it. I mean, if there's anybody up for tag team of the year, they would definitely be in the conversation, I would think, for sure. But moving on down the card, GB, prepare yourself. Just I know you got to get ready here. Just kind of, but before we get to what I'm talking about, on the card, going into the night, we were going to see Danny Jordan returning. We were going to see Kylie Alexa returning. Yes. And these 2 would be going one-on-one. Now, Kylie Alexa, one half of the NWA Women's Tag Team Champions, also the sister of the NWA World Women's Champion, Kenzie Page, who Danny lost to at our anniversary show back in October. There were some underhanded tactics used at the time, but it was a heartbreaking loss for Danny. It was a heartbreaking loss for the hometown crowd there in the Action Building that night. And quite honestly, a heartbreaking loss for us as well, because Danny has been day one SHW, and how cool would it have been for her to win the NWA World Women's Championship on our show, our anniversary show. So we were all, I'll say all, at least 99.9% of the people in the building that night were hoping that Danny would walk out of there with that title belt. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. We wondered what kind of headspace Danny would be in coming into the night, maybe try to avenge that loss against Kenzie Page's sister, Kylie Alexa. Now, what we did not expect, well, there's a couple things coming up here that we did not expect. One giant thing that I'll let Gerard discuss, but one thing right off the bat that we didn't expect was Kenzie Page to be in the building. So she gets introduced and she joins us at the commentary table, which I had no prior knowledge of that, even being I didn't know she was in the building. And so, but let's just kind of touch on a little bit how the match was going, how it played out with Kenzie joining us at the commentary booth.
Yeah, for sure. We were concerned, and we've talked about it on the pre-show as well. What kind of headspace would Danny Jordan be in after losing a match that many would call the pinnacle of your career? I mean, it's not every day you get to fight for a world championship on your home turf. Yeah. So how would she respond? We hadn't seen much from her or heard much from her. So she was clearly raring to go against Kylie Alexa. Couple that with Kylie Alexa being the first woman she brought into SHW after being put in charge of kind of rebuilding the women's division. So when Kenzie Page shows up on commentary, I'm sure Danny was going, wait a minute, I already feel outnumbered because I didn't even think you'd be here. Kenzie on commentary, which, side note, how crazy is it that, in a couple of months, we had a Hall of Famer do commentary with us, and then the current reigning NWA Women's World Champion.
Yeah.
Pretty cool life, right? So with that said, the match certainly seemed to be going in the favor of Danny Jordan, and that could partially be due to maybe a degree of sabotage by a certain ring boy. Don't know. But yeah, that gear guy, kind of spread some, I don't know, creamy gears out on the floor.
Can I just say before you,
know,
and I'll let you pick it up here, but I do want to say, because I touched on it earlier, and I would have totally forgot to bring it up again until you just mentioned that. So, and this is me defending Zach the Gear Guy, because here's the thing: the pie
alternate
from
universe.
I know the pie from Cody Fluffman was still on the floor, right, from earlier in the night. Kylie Alexa's making her entrance, and unbeknownst to her, there's the stuff still on the floor. She slipped on. Now, it may get cut out of the footage. Hopefully it does, because we don't need to like put it out there for everybody. But I'll just tell you what happened. And she kind of slipped on a little bit. But the funniest thing was Zach just happened to be standing there, and she got right in his face, as if he was the one that like caused her to slip on. And it was the funniest thing.
But here's the thing, right?
And poor Zach's like, I didn't do it.
The gear guy is supposed to be the one that picks up the things that fall and things like that.
Well, now we know, including cream pie.
Well, if he wants to be included in all these award shows and stuff, you got to do what the gear guy does.
There you go.
I know a gear girl would have actually cared for all of that. That's what I know.
Cheyenne would have cleaned it up. Well, yeah.
It would have all been done.
It was just a funny visual, and there is a photo, and I don't know if the photos have been posted yet, but when they do get posted, there is a pretty funny photo. Maybe that'll be our next when Diana posts the caption this photos.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be one of them where
one.
Kylie is right in Zach's face, and Zach's like, I didn't do it.
It was great. And I do think that impacted her. And so literally we're in the middle of commentary, and Kenzie Page abruptly gets up and not just tries to distract, but literally interferes in the match, causing a very quick disqualification. And a lot of people were wondering, now we get this sisterly beatdown of Danny Jordan. What's going to happen here? Who would come to her aid?
Ooh. You know what? Before I get there, because I'm just going to let it build, because I know we're about to get hyped. I do want to shout out Danny because it was our December show. There was holiday theme in the air. There was a giant Santa on the stage, a lot of Christmas decorations around. It wouldn't be a Danny Jordan entrance without a Christmas entrance rather, without a little Mean Girl nod and Mean Girl tribute. So Danny comes out with the Christmas hat on, doing the whole dance from Mean Girls, which she just crushed it, and it was great, and the crowd was just loving it and eating it up. And then, of course, the Missy Misdemeanor Elliott music hit, and she made the rest of her entrance. But I just wanted to shout her out for that, because it's a pretty cool entrance. But back to your original point, who would come out and help Danny Jordan? She's outnumbered 2-1 by the there you go. Who would it be? I tell you what happened. GB lost his freaking mind at the commentary booth, as did we all, but probably nobody more so than my partner right here, GB Gerard Bonner. And my friend, I will let you take it from here.
One of the great joys of serving in the royal court is, when the queen goes away, she has many responsibilities. And so we've been holding things down in SHW, not sure, because literally her responsibilities have taken her all across the world. And so I was not prepared. I did not get any notice, but music started playing, and we were wondering who would be coming to assist Danny Jordan. And, well, perhaps no one more qualified, but then also no one more questionable.
Well, we wondered at first when she came out, was she there to help Danny or help out with the beatdown on Danny?
And we're speaking, of course, of the queen of SHW.
She's
Rekka queen to be.
There it is. Because I can't do that. I wanted you to do it.
Yes, she is. She is back. The queen is back. All hail Queen Rekka Tahaka, who returned in all of her glory. And it took me a good minute after, obviously saluting our queen, after making sure, had I known, I would have had rose petals. I would have been fully prepared, but I did not know. But
nobody knew.
Nobody knew. So then the question came, once she got to the ring, once we actually got past the idea that our queen was here, who was she here for? The last time we saw her, she was involved in a strap match of strap matches, Still Here 3. And it was incredible. It was insane. Arguably a match of the year candidate without question. And that match was controversial. And then we hadn't seen our queen since. So is she coming back for revenge on Danny? Is she going after the Page sisters, dare we say, these two champions from the NWA? And then while we're trying to figure it out.
Hold that thought, GB, because as we're talking about this great moment in the women's division, we are joined by none other than our sister from another mister.
Yes.
The one and only, the beautiful Diana Michelle. Maybe, I think she's loading. She's loading. We're waiting for audio. Oh, she's mobile. She's gone mobile.
We can't hear her.
She is on the road. Hang on. We're figuring out. Folks, we got to make this work because this is the first time Diana joining us on location.
I'm on location. I'm at Dublin High School.
There you are.
And it's been wild, so forgive me, but we're going to do this on the fly.
That is okay. Okay, guess what? We're in the middle talking about the return of the queen.
GB, let me hear you sing it.
She's your queen to be.
That's twice.
She's home.
That's twice because I got him to do it earlier. That's twice in one show.
Oh, yes.
Man, it was great to see her. It was so good. Unexpected, completely unexpected. That's the last thing I would have thought would have come out. But man, what an entrance. What an impact she made.
A huge impact. And then the question came, why would she gonna be here? And then, Brandon, you get the text message of all text messages from our matchmaker who is watching from parts unknown. Yep. And what did he have to say?
Well, he happened to be watching. As we've learned in the past, he does keep tabs on the shows in real time as they are happening, because we've seen him make changes on the fly before to some of our shows, or changes or additions or whatever you want to say. And he saw the chaos that was taking place. He saw the unfair numbers game, the beat down on Danny Jordan from Kenzie and Kylie. And of course, Rekka shows up, and on the fly, Jake the Snake says, you know what? We got two over here. We got two over here. Let's make it an official tag team match. Danny Jordan, the returned Rekka Tahaka, taking on Kylie Alexa and Kenzie Page. And man, oh man, we got ourselves a tag team match. Holla, holla, holla.
Holla.
It was great.
Man, it was great. It was great. Great surprise. Great surprise.
Fantastic surprise. And so, of course, we were then wondering, how would Danny and Rekka work together? Has it been water under the bridge? It's been 2 years. And listen, it's almost the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so they worked well together. Ultimately, the NWA tag champ, the NWA women's champ, decided to go to higher ground, and they couldn't take it anymore. They said, we're not going to take it anymore. And they bounced. They got out of there.
Twisted Sister said they're not going to take it anymore.
There it is. And
very nice.
Your winners, Rekka Tahaka and Danny Jordan. And again,
the security, the pretty empowered security guard that came out there with Kenzie Page ended up taking Samoan drops in stereo. Took two of them, one from the Polynesian Savage and one from the Real Mean Girl, the misdemeanor. And man, it was awesome. But yeah, so Danny and Rekka win by count out. And but man, what a return. And that was just one of a few things that happened that night. Was major shocking to everybody.
This is why you have to be in the building. I mean, when the queen shows up, you cannot hear about it via the socials. You have to be in her presence. It was incredible. So now we ask, similarly to what we asked about Anthony Ogogo, is the queen back? If she is back, what does this do for the women's division? Because there's still very much, unfinished business that she has with Danny Jordan. Yeah. And so you got to wonder, and again, for all of the talk of what can, SHW do in the future, we've been saying it for 2 years now. Perhaps the answer is a women's division. Now sell your soul for that.
I'm all for it.
Absolutely. I see what you did there, GP. But yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But yes, I hope she's back, just like we talked about Ogogo. And I hope he's going to continue to stick around for a little bit. But man, what a moment. The roof nearly came off the place.
Mhm.
One of several times where the roof nearly came off the place. And of
True.
course, GB, I'm glad you didn't pass out or anything. You're about to blow a
Oh, he was
gasket, man.
so close. He was so look. When I saw her name come across the screen, I immediately snapped my neck over to see GB's reaction, and he did not disappoint. I'm telling you, it was
Nope.
like a kid at Christmas on Christmas morning. I mean, it was like Merry Christmas, GB.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Santa
Merry
showed up
Christmas.
early, and
Yeah,
that
he
was
did.
GB's gift
Yes.
for Christmas. And of course,
Yes.
Diana, you got a gift as well. But let's get into this match. Before we get to that point of this
Mhm.
match, it was the Battle of the Hunters. You had
Oh,
Hunter
yes.
James taking on the debuting Hunter Drake. Hunter Drake doing big things in Alabama, some promotions over there. Not known that much around the Southern Honor area. The Southern Honor faithful were not that familiar. But man, what a great talent. GB, you even mentioned kind of had vibes of like 1-2-3 Kid taking on
Mhm.
Razor Ramon back in the day
Yeah.
with the size differential and the move set from Hunter Drake. But great matchup. But again, we talked about the new alliance, if you will, from earlier in the night with Movie Mike and the guiding light, Tristan Michaels.
Mhm.
Well, Movie Mike would come out and kind of help assist Hunter James at one point. But after that matchup, it was Hunter James, or we heard the music of the Jake the Snake Legacy Champion Chip Day, and we were being trolled by Tristan Michaels. We hear the music, the crowd pops, and out comes Tristan Michaels just laughing and ha ha ha. But then back in the ring, with Hunter James back turned, Chip Day does enter through the crowd, and there was Diana's early Christmas gift. That's what I was getting to.
It was. It was.
The
Look,
bad boy
Impact did an
return.
amazing job getting that video because, I mean, first of all, let's talk about Hunter's hair. Can we talk about Hunter's hair?
Sure.
What in the world is going on
Which Hunter?
with that mop of a head? Come on now. We get some gel, some water, or something to lay it. I mean, it was like a big mushroom just exploded
Oh, wow.
on top of his head. Okay,
Hilarious.
enough of that.
Wow.
Now, bad boy Chip Day made his return and got some serious revenge, but he wasn't satisfied, guys. He wasn't satisfied at all.
Well, like I
can't
said,
wait to know.
yeah, Movie Mike was in there and kind of helped Hunter James escape the brain buster. He was
Mhm.
going to show him how to really do the brain. You know, Hunter James corrected me when Hunter James says it. He says it's the brain buster. I was like, okay. Apparently, I was saying it wrong the last show, but we said we're like, oh, here comes Chip Day, the champ. He's going to show him how to really do the brain buster. But then, of course,
That's
Movie
right.
Mike made the save. But GB, your thoughts?
Yeah, it was incredible. You know, again, the champion Chip Day really is SHW through and through. And it's very rare that somebody actually goes and attacks him. But that's what Hunter
Right.
James did back at Still Here 5.
Yeah.
And yeah, we knew Chip Day was not going to take that lying down. He was biding his time, and he picked the right moment to come after Hunter James. And it feels like there's a collision course with those two names on it, and I am all the way here for it.
Heck yeah. Chip is not one to back down to anybody, but coming after his title or anything. He took on 5 different guys at one time.
That's right.
Come out on top, defending his title. So Hunter James, flash in the pan, baby. Flash in the pan.
Wow.
Come on. I mean, we're talking about Chip freaking Day, okay? Yes. Merry Christmas, Diana.
I will say this too, and Diana, you kind of touched on this a second ago. I don't know if this will make the cut that airs on IWTV. I do not know, but if you go on the SHW Instagram page, where you see our boy Impact, who's one of our great camera guys, he posts a lot of clips, little mini clips where you can hear some of our commentary as well. And Diana, of course, is on them as well. But they're that point after where Chip Day had the run in, he dragged Impact out to the front and got right in the camera and had a direct message for Hunter James. And so I won't repeat it. It's let's just
no
say
need to repeat it.
Not safe for work, but it is on the Instagram account. So if you want to go check it out there, again, I don't know if it'll make the final cut that ends up on IWTV or not, but if you do want to see it, go check out the SHW Instagram page and just watch the video all the way through because it's at the end. And it made me go, whoa, okay, all right.
Tip's gonna give him the business, I'm telling you.
Yeah, he's fired up, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him. because this has been a couple of months in the making after being attacked after that the grueling match at our anniversary show. So anyways, moving on down the card though, Diana, I'm glad you made it in time to talk about this particular match.
I wouldn't miss it.
We had the returning infantry, Bad News and Tattoos, Carly Bravo, and of course Captain Sean Dean, making big waves in ROH over the last several months, and just really just going all out, and just the fan base has grown exponentially. I mean, GB, you talked about on commentary, you were with them in North Carolina, and the fan base there was crazy for them. I mean, being in ROH they've just exploded. Their popularity has just gone through the roof, and the fact that they come back home, because they're, OGs in SHW, and the fact that they come back home, and even Carly would tell you this, he's told us this numerous times, there's nothing like coming back home. He can get as big as he can in all these other spaces, but it's always coming back home that really just means the most to him. And so the fact that they got to come back, we were already excited because they announced it at the previous show that they'd be back. And of course they were taking on those no good Exotic Youth. And I was so excited because we couldn't wait. Now, here's one thing that just kind of blew my mind. Diana, during the pre-show, if you recall, you said that the infantry was going to take out Exotic Youth for good.
I did.
And I thought, I was just thinking they were going to beat them up good and win the match and give them a whooping. I wasn't envisioning them taking them out for good. But after the match, what we would come to find out was what you said came to fruition.
I mean, Captain Sean and Bad News and Tattoos must have been listening, because they just extra loving on Diana this time. And I got 2 Christmas presents. They took them out. OUT out. OUT of SHW out.
Well, just so you know, Diana, on commentary, I claimed it as my gift because you got Chip Day, Gerard got Rekka, and I got.
Okay, I'm double dipping. Okay.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, a few things. One, what the infantry has done right now is amazing. And again, I'm sure when we talk about the end of the year moments, one of the biggest moments in our year was watching Carly Bravo get signed and having that news delivered to him by the captain, Sean Dean. It just again proves that this is the breeding ground for major stars that are going to impact the nation and the world. And so to see how the infantry has grown, adding Trish Adora to their ranks, and now, having some of the most popular merch in all of Ring of Honor, building fans in every city they go to. It's incredible. And so when they can come home to handle business, it's even crazier. And so before we get to the end of that, let's acknowledge this was an amazing tag team match.
Incredible.
These 2 teams gave us everything, and it showed, and I know some people don't like these guys, but it showed that Exotic Youth can hang with these national tag teams. They are as good as these tag teams. They hung in there, and for the most part, it happened without chicanery. I said for the most part, because of course, toward the end, Pepper Bottom
did get his butt handed to him in the beginning. I know I missed that part of the show, but
that was our first Christmas gift that we talked about at the beginning of the show for me and you, Diana.
Gifts abound. They abound.
Well, here's the thing. Yes, Pep got involved. We were shocked. I couldn't believe he was able to be back on his feet after taking the governor's hammer earlier in the night. But I'm surprised he was awake at all, or even knew where he was. But he's bringing out the frat paddle. There were multiple frat paddles coming into play. I mean, it was just a little bit of chaos there, but the infantry still managed to get the victory. And then, of course, that's when all chaos broke loose with the 3 crybabies in the ring, pitching a big fit and just really ripping into our general manager and the company as a whole. And finally, they've been claiming crying conspiracy for months and months. And they're fed up. They had enough. And I'm not going to repeat what they said. You can see it on IWTV. But they quit the company and they left and they took their ball and they went home and they walked right out the front door. And I may have sounded a little exuberant on commentary.
A little.
GB,
a little.
Yeah, just like GB was a little excited to see Rekka Tahaka.
You guys both went hoarse with excitement. I already know.
Now, all right, now I'm going to do something that may shock you guys. Here's the thing. these guys actually left. They actually quit, and
They're gone.
I'll pull back the curtain a little bit and admit to you that I think that these guys are great at what they do. They are the best faction. They have been for the last 2 years, and going on year 3, I think they win it again this year. They are really great at what they do. They bring a lot to the table. Yes, we love to hate them, but I am shocked that they are legitimately leaving the company, and I couldn't believe it. And I don't want to say I'm sad to see them go,
Well,
but
I am.
I will miss them being there just so we can give each other crap, because that's what we do. Like, I look forward to the shows so I can get in the face of Bryce Cannon, or he get in our face and talk trash, and we go back and forth. I'm shocked. I couldn't believe, people talk about, storyline. No. They're legitimately leaving, and I can't believe it. And I will say it again. I know I'm shocking you guys saying this, but I legitimately think they are the best faction / tag team, whatever you want to call them,
Wow.
in the state. And I can't believe they're gone. I really can't believe they're gone. I have nothing to do with the behind the scenes with the management, and they keep claiming conspiracy, and they can blame me or Diana or whatever. I have nothing to do with the matches that get made or when they get put into the gauntlet, if they have to go first or whatever they claimed. But yeah, there you have it. I'm disappointed to see them go. I know I didn't sound like that on commentary.
No,
I was
not
caught
at
up in
all.
the moment. But it's a big hit because you're taking the best tag team in the state out of our company. So, like them or not,
Well,
that's
we're
a
not
blow to the
taking
company.
them out. They're taking themselves out.
I know
They've
we're
decided
not, but
to
I'm just saying you is
Nobody's
in. Yeah,
taking
yeah.
them out. They're taking their deflated ball and going home, and that's a choice. But just you remember when I kind of compared them to the Ric Flair and Four Horsemen of today?
How could
I
we
remember
forget?
that.
They're gonna take your clip that you just spit out right there, Brandon, and they're just gonna post it everywhere.
They are.
They are.
But that's how
That was a
shocked I
little
am.
much.
But that's how shocked I am that they're leaving. I can't believe it.
I am
I thought
shocked.
for sure, like, what?
I am definitely shocked. Definitely.
Yeah, like I thought for sure, like, okay, there's some sort of catch here. They're gonna swerve us. There's some sort of like, I'm waiting for the punchline, and then there was no punchline. They left, and I was like, wait,
They did. They went out the
okay,
front door, didn't they? Yeah.
yeah.
You know what? There's a couple of things that are scary to me. For one, unfortunately, we've seen a couple of scenarios over the last year or so where people have been fired, people have quit, and people thought, oh, it's just a story, and it's not. Like,
Mm-mm.
it's not. And so before I give my thoughts on Exotic Youth, I want to ask you guys objectively, when you look at the run that Exotic Youth has had in SHW, and you look at the things that they have been presented with, do you feel like they have a case in terms of this talk of conspiracy? Has there been a conspiracy to not allow Exotic Youth to really showcase the best of who they are? And does it stem from this long-standing feud that they've had with Gary Lamb?
The one thing that I will say to their point, where they had a good point, I think it might have been Mosley that was saying this, in the triple threat tag team match at Still Here 5 back in October, there was a point where there was a very, very slow count from the guest referee. Or no, was it the triple threat tag match?
No.
There were no. It was the match between Exotic Youth and the Hierarchy.
Yeah, the month
Right.
before that.
Yes, that's what it was. And there was a very slow count by the guest official. And I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to point fingers. But to their point, I will admit that was at least the one big thing that sticks out to me. Otherwise, they're the ones that interfere in all the matches and have the 3-on-2 advantage and all the time. So conspiracy anywhere else, I don't really see it. I mean, Jake the Snake puts him in matches where he sees fit. I have nothing to do with that. I know they have a long-standing feud with Gary Lamb that goes back to before they were even in the company officially. That's on them. Got nothing to do with it. I don't know. But that lack of a 3 count from several months ago, I will admit, yeah, that was a little screwy,
Well,
for sure.
I think Zach, one of his arguments was that they had to start the gauntlet match somebody's got to start the gauntlet match, right? I mean, why
Yeah.
not them? It could have
Yeah.
been anybody. And it wasn't just them. It was the other team that started the gauntlet match with them. So, I mean, you got to win one to win the second. So that is irrelevant to me.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's I will say that, you know, one could make the argument that perhaps they were brought in almost to kind of get a one up on them, you know, and not put them in the best position. Because here's one thing we do know. When you go back to that particular tag title match that happened, we know that title matches are not common. You know, you get one, you don't know when you're going to get another one. And to have a referee who, I don't know if they're actually licensed as a referee, they were just guest referee in that particular moment, take liberty upon themselves to have an extremely slow count and potentially cost them a tag title that they may not get another opportunity at, that weighs on them.
But they definitely won't now. They quit. They're out of the
at this
company.
point, they won't.
Yeah.
So,
but going back before that, GB, were they not the cause of a mishap for All-Star Special in the tag team division and the race for the belts?
Good
Were they
that-
not?
that did happen. Part of me wonders if, because, you know, there was on that particular show, they caused chicanery everywhere.
Exactly.
I think they were even causing chicanery even in the Rumble Jack in that particular event. And part of me feels like they may have had to do this because they did not feel like they were getting opportunities elsewhere. So it's almost like, you let me in the door, but, you know, you let me in the back door. And, you know, of all the locker rooms, you gave me the worst locker room, and you gave me the least pay, and, you know, you gave me the worst food possible. So I got to do what I can while I'm on here. I get one shot, so I'm going to make the most of it. So all I'm saying is, I don't know everything that happened with Exotic Youth. I wasn't there. But what I can say is what they said Friday night felt very passionate, felt very much from the heart, felt very much like they have been waiting to say this for a long time and did not have the forum. And for them, you know, they've been tag team of the year the last 2 years, and most of that was done outside of SHW. And so for them, if they felt like we can go somewhere else and be treated better, I mean, anybody at your job, if you feel like your boss has a conspiracy against you and you can afford to leave and go elsewhere, you would. So I just think this is where I wish that there was some sort of, I don't want to call them governing body, but some sort of something that could investigate and get to the bottom of this. Because whether we like Exotic Youth or not, they're one of the best tag teams in the Southeast. And if you take them out, what does that do to our tag team division? You know, for all this talk of what we've got to do to make SHW, you know, fantastic or on top of the world or whatever, you might want to have the tag team that has been recognized as the best tag team in the last 2 years. So,
but again, nobody kicked them out.
But here's the thing. Ooh, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. So here's my thought. My thought is, if we are running a company and you have one of your best producers up and leave, wouldn't you at the very least want to see what can we do to get you back? Because you have been productive. I don't know that they would come to some sort of resolution if that happened. I don't know. But I haven't seen any sort of effort. Now, granted, there may have been phone calls between last week and now, and I obviously am not privy to that. I don't know.
GB, let's just be honest here. You're the only one that ever defends them. You're the only one that really,
I
don't want to say likes them, because I don't know if you like them or not, but you're the only one that defends. Nobody else likes them. But
also, we're not always
I admitted that
to know what's going on behind the scenes and who's calling who and who's
I don't know.
I know their dislike. they're disliked universally behind the scenes. I do know that much. And so the management,
but they're
doesn't
also
like 'em.
productive.
I get
Like
it. I
that-
get it.
They
That's
are
that's the
productive.
tough.
They are, but
Yeah.
the fact still remains nobody kicked them out. They left on their own. So it was their choice. Whether Southern Honor does anything to try to get them to come back or stay or whatever, that's neither here nor that's remains to be seen. But as of right now, the fact is they left by choice.
Yeah. And look, I gave them their props. I know
Yeah,
that
you did.
I
You
gave them their
did.
props.
Well,
Do I like them as people? No. But I gave them their
Well,
props, and they're gone,
ex-
and they left. I'm shocked that they left. Again, I do think it's a blow to our company, and they did
Yes.
leave on their own. It's not like we got rid of we didn't tell them to leave. They quit, and it is what it is. Maybe they can make amends in the future. Maybe they come back. We'll see. Time will tell. But hey, the craziest things happen. CM Punk just showed back up in WWE, so
nothing is impossible.
hell
Nothing.
froze over there. Maybe hell freezes over again. We'll see. I don't know. But what I do know is, all of that said, all of the card we just went through is in addition to the major main event that we had, where Joe Black took on Judas for the Southern Honor Championship. We wondered if the numbers game would come into play like it usually does with the end game against whoever they're facing. In this case, there was a bit of intrigue where earlier in the night, it seemed as though hierarchy member Kenway looked like he maybe joined sides with the end game. So we wondered if that would come into play here in the main event. And it did eventually, and we'll get to that. But, Joe Black, let's talk about that entrance. GB.
Somebody go. I'm just reliving right now.
GB, talk to us.
You always know the gravity of the event that you have based on the entrance of Joe Black. Like that is always I go back to January 2020, the dog collar match, where you went, oh yeah, this is about to be some stuff. And every time it happens, Joe Black is on another level. And it happened this time. He came out as Sub-Zero. There was the snow. There was his eye. There were all the things. And it was just like, okay, this is about to be crazy. One of the best entrances I've seen in a long, long time.
That video is going viral, by the way.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
Between that video and Danny's entrance video, those things are through the roof.
Yes, it's popping on SHW's socials right now.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, let's talk about, tell us about the match, GB. Your thoughts on the match.
The match, incredible. You've got Joe Black, almost 3 years to the day of having to relinquish the SHW championship due to injury, taking on Judas, who, had he walked out with the championship, would then move into the number 3 spot in terms of the longest reign for an SHW champion, surpassing the great Owen Knight, which is crazy if you think about that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, this match gave us everything. First of all, it's rare that we see someone step into the ring with Judas who is not afraid of him. Literally, Joe Black was like, bring it.
Yeah.
And Joe Black, he absorbed a lot of Judas's punishment. And Judas held nothing back, and rightfully so. Two of the absolute best in the Southeast, and I would dare say independent wrestling. And this match went back and forth like Aaliyah. It was crazy. And here we get to this moment where we're at the end of the match. And by all accounts, Joe Black is your new SHW champion.
I caught it.
Judas taps, and we've got a new champ.
He passed out. His arm went limp.
He passed out, right.
Arm, yeah.
He passed out. He submits, whatever you want to call it. We've got a new champion. Our first champ.
Yeah.
And then Todd Sexton shows up and is bogarting and bullying the referee, saying, no, his foot was under the rope. His foot was under the rope. Remember, I was just saying about Exotic Youth that we need a governing body. We need a governing body because the last time I checked, the referee's decision was final. Like the fact that somebody can come in and bully a referee, Todd Sexton has no more matchmaking power in SHW. So he shouldn't be able to do what he did. There was a time where he could have done that and would have been well within his authority. Now isn't that time. So it just got crazy and went off the rails. And then Judias gets disqualified and Joe Black wins, but doesn't win the championship. And we need justice for Joe Black.
Well, and then the intriguing thing that happened after the match was all said and done, the numbers game came into play. We wondered about Kenway from earlier in the night. Kenway comes out with a steel chair, and the end game is basically holding up Joe Black for Kenway to lay him out. And then finally, Kenway made the wise decision and went after the end game with a steel chair and showed his true colors, his allegiance to the hierarchy after all. So a bit of a craziness over the last 2 months as to which way is Kenway going to go here. And he's stuck with his guns and stuck with the guys that have been with him since the beginning. And that's the hierarchy, Murder One and Joe Black. So it ended, I guess, kind of on a positive note in that aspect. But overall, we were very disappointed to see how the title belt stayed with Judias after he got himself disqualified. And then came over to us with that chain, slinging that chain around right next to our table. Whew. Jeez, as if we weren't both about to pass out from all the other craziness earlier in the night.
Right. Just crazy. I'm just glad
But
that
for him,
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
for
go ahead.
Judias to know that he was beaten and had to disqualify himself to keep the title, that says a lot. That speaks volumes.
Yeah, it totally does. I'm just glad that the Kenway, who claims to be the Infinity Stone, actually used his stones to make a decision and come up with the fact that, oh yeah, I'm the guy for not the end game, but for the hierarchy. I'm glad he finally figured that out. Yeah. So he can earn the right to be called the Infinity Stone because his stones were seemingly gone. So thank you.
He had me worried. He got me for real. He did. I thought he was coming after Joe. I really did. Yeah. Thank God he didn't. I feel like his ride home would have been dark.
Very dark.
No kidding. Dark. We have no idea where this takes us for next month. I do not know. Like I said, earlier in the night, I talked about the one match we do know for sure is Fluffman versus Lev. That has been made official. And but from there, we don't know. We will find out in the coming weeks as the card gets announced little by little. And we get ready to ring in 2024 in a huge way, January 5th at SHW58. That's going to wrap us up. I know we got a little fired up there at one point, but just here, I'll just do this to end us.
Oh boy.
I will remember you.
Oh wow.
That's not me.
Anyways, sorry.
Wow.
I have no words. I'm like totally speechless right now. I can't even.
That was from the heart, Bryce. I hope you appreciate it.
That was awesome.
Anyways, that's gonna wrap us up. We will see you guys back here next week. But until then, this has been
SHW.
This is our wrestling.
Live right, live right, live right.